The tactical display turned red in a single pulse. Lieutenant Kira Vale felt her 6 fingers go cold against the console. The recording in her earpiece had been running for 3,000 years, waiting for this moment. It spoke in the dry, cracked voice of the oldest one. 847 senators will vote for this. They will be wrong. She looked up. The obsidian rotunda was gone. The stars were gone. Only the display remained, a map of the Kale corridor with the enemy fleet moving toward Earth. The timer on her console ticked upward from 0. The constant protocol had started 3 seconds before Admiral Draven Kale gave his orders. "Hold the line," he said. His voice resonated through the bridge. Gold eyes, no pupil, fixed on the void ahead. Kira Vale did not answer. She did not have to. The platforms were already awake. In the asteroid field between the Zarvith fleet and Sentinel Station, 3,000 shadows unfolded. They had been folded into rock for 3 millennia, waiting for a signal that had not come yet. The signal came. Kale saw it first. His jaw scar, the missing tip of his left horn, twitched. "What is that?" he asked. Kira Vale watched the numbers change. "The old systems," she said. "They are." The platforms fired. No warning, no negotiation, no mercy. The void lit up in 18 directions. Kale's flagship shook. One by one, the red markers on the display flared and died. The first wave was gone in moments. Admiral Kale's 3-fingered hand gripped the armrest. His claws extended, scraping metal. "Full retreat," he ordered. The path was blocked. A wall of mines had sealed the corridor behind them, and ahead, hundreds of human ships were rising from the asteroids. "Admiral," Kira Vale said. Her voice was steady, but she counted the seconds between pulses of the display. The rhythm was too fast. She was afraid. She turned to him. The warning was a prediction. Kale stared at her. For the first time in 200 years, his hand trembled. "Then why did she warn us?" he whispered. Kira Vale opened her mouth to answer. But the recording in her ear spoke again, and the cold drop froze everything. "I wish I could tell you that was the moment they understood. It wasn't." The understanding had started 3,000 years before the first shot. 3,000 years earlier, the obsidian rotunda filled with the smell of ozone and burnt incense. Elder Valkorin rose from her seat. She was pale, elongated, her voice like sand scraping stone. She had warned the council many times before. She would not warn them again. "You are voting for extinction," she said. "Not theirs, yours." The chamber held thousands of seats, carved from the core of a dead moon. Above them, the Vorkath Nebula pulsed cold violet through the transparent obsidian ceiling. A Zorathi scribe, Jorik, recorded her words. His hands trembled. "The motion is clear," said the Korvathi ambassador, fanning himself with his slate. "The Zarvith Dominion requests passage through Sector 12 Omega. They have conquered 8 systems. They have never lost a campaign. Valkorin did not sit down. They have never faced this. They have never faced what waits." Aid Myreth, a young valley, watched the elder with quiet reverence, but the vote was already decided. Hundreds of senators raised their hands. Only a handful did not. The motion passed. Valkorin turned and walked out of the chamber. She did not look back, but as she passed the door, she pressed a data slate into the hands of the keeper, a young Zorathi, who had recorded her words for 42 years. "Send this to Earth," she said. "Not to the council, to the ones who remember." The keeper nodded. The recording left the rotunda that night. It would travel for 3,000 years, through relays and dead networks until it reached a woman who would wait another 98 years to use it. That woman was Admiral Kara Vance. She stood on Sentinel Station, an asteroid fortress at the edge of human space. The air was cold and recycled. A dented thermos sat beside her console. The tea inside had gone cold hours ago. She took a sip anyway. Lieutenant Commander Elias Thorne handed her a data slate. "The vote passed, Admiral." She did not look at him. She touched her chest, where a worn silver compass hung beneath her uniform. The face was cracked. The needle had not moved in 98 years. Neither had she. "How many ships?" she asked. 45 flagships, Thorne said. "Admiral Draven Kale is commanding." Vance nodded. She had been waiting for this moment for 30 years. Her grandmother had carried the compass through the first exodus. She had passed it down with one instruction. "Wait. Activate the constant protocol," Vance said. Thorne paused. "Admiral, we haven't run a live test in. I know how long it's been," she said. "Do it?" Sergeant Webb sat at the platform console. His coffee mug was half empty. Cold. He took a sip. Platforms are cold, he said. Not for long, Vance replied. Webb counted down from 5. His fingers moved across the keys. Muscle memory from a simulation he had run 10,000 times. At 0, he pressed the transmit. The signal left Sentinel Station. Commander Chen stood at the fleet coordinator's table. The signal will reach the platforms in 14 seconds, he said. Vance looked at the display. The Zarveth fleet had already entered the Kale corridor. They would reach Earth in minutes. She touched the compass again. The needle did not move. They're taking the bait, she said. The oldest one knew they would. On the bridge of the Eternal Conquest, Kira Vale watched her console. The timer ticked upward from 0. She had not received the signal from Sentinel Station yet, but she heard the oldest one's voice in her earpiece. It had been waiting for 3,000 years. You will not believe me, the recording said. But you will remember. Kira Vale turned to her tactical display. The Zarveth formation was perfect. Their entry vector matched simulation file 7.4 exactly. The oldest one had designed the trap for this exact moment. Admiral Kira Vale said our entry vector matches their predicted doctrine. The signal from Sentinel Station arrived. Across the asteroid field, 3,000 platforms opened their sensor eyes. Webb counted the seconds on Sentinel Station. 15 seconds to full activation, he said. 14, 13. Vance did not watch the countdown.
She looked at her compass. The needle trembled once, a thing it had not done in 98 years. Then it pointed north. So it begins, she said. On the Eternal Conquest, the display went red. The display went red, and the sound of alarms filled the bridge.
Lieutenant Kira Vale counted the pulses 1, 2, 3, and forced her hands to stop shaking. Admiral Draven Kale stood from his command chair. His 3-fingered hand, claws still extended, slammed the console. Status, he barked. First wave lost, said the tactical officer, a younger Zarveth with unmarked horns. 112 ships destroyed in the opening volley. Kale's gold eyes narrowed. Who fired? The officer hesitated. Automated platforms, they were hidden in the asteroid field. We did not detect them. Detect them now, Kale said. Return fire. A second wave of platforms opened up. Red markers winked out across the display. Another 100. Kira Vale watched the numbers climb. Her earpiece, still playing the oldest one's recording, whispered a fragment she had heard 1,000 times before. You will not believe me, but you will remember. She remembered. She had read the transcript of the warning. It listed the exact formation, the exact entry vector, the exact timing. It predicted that the Zarveth would not alter their approach because they had never needed to. Admiral, she said, we are inside a kill box. The entry vector is... I know what the vector is. Kale cut her off. Order the second fleet to advance. Flank the platforms, the officer relayed the order. Kira Vale saw the ships on the display shift formation. It was the same maneuver they had used in 7 previous conquests. It had never failed. It failed now. The platforms, designed for exactly this pattern, adjusted their firing solution in 2 seconds. The second wave of Zarveth ships flew straight into a crossfire. Another 112 died. Kale's jaw tightened. The scar on his left horn seemed to pulse. He had not lost a campaign in 200 years. He did not know how to lose. Pull back, he said. Full reverse. Admiral, the tactical officer said. The mines have sealed the corridor behind us. We cannot reverse. Kale turned to Kira Vale. You, he said. You are Valeth. You analyze. Tell me what this is. Kira Vale took a breath. She counted the seconds between her heartbeats. 3, then 4, then 5. She was afraid. This is a trap, she said. The platforms were placed here 3,000 years ago. They have been waiting for our exact arrival. Who placed them? The humans, she said. The oldest one warned them. Kale stared at her. The oldest one is dead. She has been dead for centuries. The warning was a prediction, Kira Vale said. She told the council what would happen. They voted for this anyway. The humans built this because they believed her. Kale stepped toward her. His claws retracted, but his gaze did not soften. You are saying they knew we would come here. They built this for us. Yes, Admiral. He turned back to the display. The numbers kept falling. 250 ships gone. 300, 350. The platforms were relentless, firing in precise waves, never wasting a shot. He had made a mistake. He had never made one before. On Sentinel Station, Admiral Vance watched the same numbers on a different display. Her tea had gone truly cold, but she held the thermos anyway. Sergeant Webb read out the count. 342 destroyed, 219 disabled. Their flagship is still active. How many of our platforms have we lost? Vance asked. 12, Webb said. They got a lucky shot on a cluster. Vance nodded. She touched the compass again. The needle had not moved since the first tremor, but it still pointed north. She did not know what that meant, but it felt right. Commander Chen stepped closer. Admiral, we have a transmission from the Zarvith flagship. Put it through. Kale's face appeared on the main screen. His gold eyes were flat, emotionless, but his right hand was pressed against the armrest with enough force to dent it. Human, he said. You have trapped my fleet. You will suffer for this. Vance did not blink. You came with 2,300 ships, she said. We built for 2,500. You have 450 remaining that can still fight. You cannot go forward. You cannot go backward. You have 14 minutes before your fuel reserves drop below the return threshold. Kale's eyes widened. He did not expect her to have done the math. What do you want? He asked. I want you to listen, Vance said. The oldest one's warning was never a request. It was the only door. You chose to keep it closed. Now you're standing in the hallway, and the door is still there. You can open it. Kale stared at her. His claws extended again, scraping the armrest. Surrender, she said. Your ships will be escorted to neutral space. Your crew will be returned to your dominion. You will carry a message back to your council. Or what? Or I will close the door for good. Kale looked away from the screen. Kira Vale watched him. She had served under him for 12 years. She had never seen him hesitate. He hesitated now. Hold, he said. I will consider your terms. The transmission cut. Kira Vale exhaled. She realized she had stopped counting. She started again. The enemy ships had gone from 2,300 to 453. In 9 minutes, the platforms had done what the entire human fleet could not have done on its own. They had turned the Zarvith's own doctrine into their tomb. She looked at her console. The oldest one's recording had stopped, but a new message had arrived, flagged as priority. She opened it. It was from Earth, from Admiral Vance. Lieutenant Kira Vale, the message read. You are the one who understands the warning. You are the one who remembered. When the time comes, you will speak. Not to the council, to your people. They need to know that the door was always open. Kira Vale read the message twice. She did not know how Vance knew her name. She did not know how she had known that Kira Vale had read the transcript. But she felt the compass at her own chest. She did not have one, but she imagined the weight. She felt the needle tremble. On the bridge, Kale turned to her. You, he said again, you read the oldest one's records. What else did she say? Kira Vale met his gaze. She had been afraid before. Now she was not. She said the galaxy would dismiss the humans as weak. Kira Vale said. She said they would mistake silence for surrender. She said that when the time came, the humans would show them what patience meant. Kale's hand stopped trembling. He sat back in his chair. Then why warn us? He asked. If they built this, why tell us at all? Kira Vale paused. She remembered the last line of the transcript. It had been a single sentence, written in the oldest one's own hand, appended after the formal warning. Because a warning is an offer. If you reject it, you cannot say you were not told. She repeated those words to Kale. He said nothing. He looked at the display, at the remaining ships, at the wall of platforms and mines and human vessels that had materialized from the void. Then he pressed a button. All ships, he said. Stand down. Stand down and prepare for boarding. The bridge officers turned to him in disbelief. Kira Vale saw the younger tactical officer's jaw drop. She saw the navigation officer's hands freeze over the controls. But no one questioned the order. No one had ever questioned Admiral K. He looked at Kira Vale. Transmit this to the humans, he said. We accept their terms, but we will not carry their message. You will. Kira Vale blinked. Admiral, you understand the warning, Kale said. You can tell them what it meant. I cannot. I was wrong. They will not believe it from me. Kira Vale did not argue. She opened the comm channel to Sentinel Station. Admiral Vance, she said. This is Lieutenant Kira Vale of the Valeth Observer Corps. Admiral Kale has surrendered his fleet. He requests that I deliver the message to the council. Vance's voice came back through the speaker. We accept. You will be transported to Earth immediately. The council has already been informed of the outcome. Kira Vale nodded, though Vance could not see her. Understood. She closed the channel. The bridge was silent except for the hum of the engines and the distant thud of hull plates cooling. Cale had not moved from his chair. "Go," he said. "Go before I change my mind." Kira Vale rose from her station. She walked past him, past the silent officers, toward the hatch that led to the shuttle bay. She paused at the door. "Admiral," she said, "why did you surrender?" Cale's gold eyes met hers. For the first time, she saw something other than certainty in them. She saw exhaustion. "Because I counted," he said. "I counted our losses, and I realized that the oldest one had counted them too. 3,000 years ago, she knew exactly how many of us would die. She knew exactly how many would survive." Kira Vale waited. "I was never the one in control," Cale said. "She was, and she gave us a door. I was too arrogant to see it. I see it now." Kira Vale turned and left. The shuttle lifted from the Eternal Conquest and flew toward the human fleet. From the window, Kira Vale watched the battle debris drift in the void. Hundreds of wrecked ships, thousands of lives extinguished in 9 minutes. She did not mourn them. She had been trained to observe, not to grieve, but she counted. She counted the spinning fragments, the twisted hulls, the frozen bodies tumbling in the dark. She counted them because that was what the oldest one had done. She had counted every one, and then Kira Vale realized something she had not understood before. The oldest one had not warned the council to save them. She had warned them so that when the slaughter came, they could not claim ignorance. She had warned them so that the blood would be on their hands, not on hers. The shuttle docked with Sentinel Station. Kira Vale stepped out into the cold, recycled air. Admiral Vance was waiting for her. Vance wore a gray uniform, her gray hair pulled back, the silver compass visible through the fabric of her collar. She held a dented thermos in one hand. "Lieutenant," Vance said, "I'm glad you came." Kira Vale did not know how to respond. She nodded instead. Vance gestured down the corridor. "The council is waiting. They have been watching the feed the entire time. They know what happened, then why am I here?" Kira Vale asked. "Because you're the only one who can tell them the truth," Vance said. "The oldest one's warning was a door. I opened it. Cale closed it, but the door is still there. The council needs to understand that the door was never for them to walk through. It was for them to look back through." Kira Vale followed her down the corridor. They passed banks of consoles, repair crews, soldiers with tired eyes. No one spoke. The station hummed with the low frequency of a place that had been expecting visitors for a very long time. Vance stopped at a hatch. "Through there is a live feed to the Obsidian Rotunda," she said. "You will address the council. You will tell them what happened here. You will tell them what the oldest one said." Kira Vale looked at the hatch. She thought of the recording, the cracked voice, the words she had memorized. "What if they don't listen?" she asked. Vance touched her compass. The needle still pointed north. "Then they will make the same mistake the Zarvith made," she said, "and the door will close again. But this time, no one will open it." Kira Vale stepped through the hatch. The feed was already live. Thousands of faces filled the screen, the council, watching from the rotunda. They looked pale, shaken. Many of them had voted for the Zarvith expedition. They had watched the massacre unfold. Kira Vale stood at the podium. Her hands were steady. She opened her mouth to speak, and in that moment the recording in her ear began again. It was the oldest one's voice, but a section Kira Vale had never heard before. "Lieutenant Kira Vale, if you are hearing this, then you have understood what I meant. You have counted what I counted. You have seen what I saw. Now you must tell them the truth they did not want to hear. The warning was never about them. It was about the ones who would come after. The ones who would remember. The ones who would count." Kira Vale looked into the camera. "Honored representatives," she said, "I am Lieutenant Kira Vale of the Valith Observer Corps. I was on the bridge of the Eternal Conquest when the constant protocol activated. I saw the platforms fire, I saw the ships fall, I saw the man who thought he was invincible, realize that he was not." She paused. "But I also saw something else," she said. "I saw a door. The oldest one left it open for 3,000 years. She did not close it when we refused to walk through. She kept it open because she knew that one day we would need to look back." On Sentinel Station, Admiral Vance watched the feed on a small screen. She sipped her cold tea. The compass at her chest remained still, but she felt its weight. The council had heard the truth. Now they had to decide what to do with it. The first senator to speak after the feed ended asked for a recount. "Those numbers cannot be right," said Ambassador Thesvar, fanning himself faster now. The Zarvith lost 2,300 ships in 9 minutes. That is impossible. Scribe Jorik set down his data slate. His hands had stopped trembling. The numbers are from the Zarvith's own tactical logs, he said. They are accurate. Thesvar turned to the keeper, the young Zorathi who had recorded Elder Valkoran's words for 42 years. You, he said. You were there when she gave the warning. Did she mention a defense system? Did she tell us we would be slaughtered? The keeper met his gaze. She told you everything, he said. You voted anyway. The chamber erupted. Senators shouted over one another, accusations flying. Some demanded an investigation into the humans. Others called for an emergency session to revise the Concord's military doctrine. A few, very few, sat in silence. One of them was Ambassador Myrith, the young Valley who had watched Valkoran with reverence. She had voted against the expedition. She had been one of the three. She rose from her seat. Honored representatives, she said. We have just watched a fleet of 2,300 ships be reduced to 453 in 9 minutes. We have just learned that a species we dismissed as primitive built a system that outthought the most advanced military in the galaxy. And we have just heard that the oldest one predicted all of this 3,000 years ago. She paused. And now we are arguing about the numbers. Silence fell. We are not the victims here. Myrith continued. We are the ones who voted for this. We are the ones who ignored her warnings. We are the ones who will have to explain to our people why we sent our allies to die. Ambassador Thesvar slammed his slate on the table. Then what do you suggest? Surrender our authority to the humans? They have already proven they can destroy a fleet without breaking a sweat. I suggest we listen, Myrith said. To the recording, to the one who understood it, to the keeper. All eyes turned to the keeper. He stepped forward, his voice was soft, like sand settling. The oldest one's warning was not about the Zarvith, he said. It was about us. She knew we would not believe her. She knew we would send the Zarvith to their deaths, and she knew that when the slaughter came, we would look for someone to blame. He paused. Her final message, he said, was not to the council. It was to the ones who would remember. She left a second recording, one that only the keeper knows. Thesvar leaned forward. A second recording? Why was it not shared? Because it was not meant for you, the keeper said. It was meant for the ones who would come after, the ones who would understand that patience is the longest lever. On Sentinel Station, Admiral Vance watched the Council's chaos on her screen. She sipped her cold tea and set the thermos down. Commander Chen approached. Admiral, we have a problem. The Council is fracturing. Some of the representatives are calling for a vote to declare us a rogue faction. Vance did not look surprised. They would. They cannot accept that they were wrong. So they will try to make us wrong. Should we prepare a defense? No, Vance said. We are not the ones on trial. Let them vote. Let them declare whatever they want. The oldest one already gave us the only verdict that matters. She touched her compass. The needle had not moved again, but she felt the weight of it, the generations of waiting that had led to this moment. Sergeant Webb called from the platform console. Admiral, we're picking up a transmission from the Zarvith flagship. It's marked for you personally. Vance took the comm. Admiral Vance, came Kale's voice. He sounded tired, stripped of arrogance. I have watched your council. They will not listen to your lieutenant. They will not listen to anyone. They will do what they always do. They will vote, and they will be wrong. Vance waited. But I have a message for you, Kale continued. From the oldest one. It was not in the transcript. It was hidden in the tactical data. Vance's hand tightened on the comm. What message? The recorded warning, Kale said, contains a secondary layer. A mathematical sequence that only someone with your patience would decode. It spells out the final count. Not of ships, not of lives, of warnings. Vance felt her pulse quicken.
How many warnings?
847 warnings, Kale said, one for each senator. She warned them individually, over the course of 400 cycles. Each one received a personal message, and each one ignored it. The compass on Vance's chest seemed to warm. She counted them, Vance whispered. Each one. She knew exactly who would vote yes and who would vote no. She knew, Kale said, and she left a final instruction for the person who would decode it. What is it? The line went silent for a moment. Then Kale's voice returned, quieter now. She said, when they ask for one more chance, give them the count. Let them see their own names. Let them see that I knew, and they did not. Vance closed her eyes. On the council feed, Myrith was still speaking. She had called for a full review of the oldest one's archives. She had demanded that the keeper be granted full access to the historical records. But the motion was failing. The majority of the council had already decided that the humans were a threat. They had decided that the oldest one was a traitor. They had decided that the Zarvith were the victims. Thesvar raised his hand. I move that we declare the constant protocol an act of unprovoked aggression. I move that we sanction Earth and its allies until they dismantle their defense system. The vote began. Myrith watched the numbers climb. She saw 847 hands rise. She saw 3 hands stay down. The motion passed. Myrith sat down. She felt nothing. She had expected this. On Sentinel Station, Vance watched the vote. She did not flinch. Commander Chen stepped forward. Admiral, they've sanctioned us. They've declared us a rogue faction. They're calling for our disarmament. Vance turned to him. How many hands? 847, Chen said. Just like the oldest one predicted. Vance nodded. She reached into her uniform and pulled out the compass. The needle, frozen for 98 years, had not moved since the tremor. But now, as she held it up to the screen, it began to spin. Slowly at first, then faster. Then it stopped. It pointed at the door. Transmit this to the council, Vance said. On the same channel, send it. She touched the compass once more. Then she spoke the words that the oldest one had left for her. Honored representatives, you have just voted to sanction the humans. You have done exactly what the oldest one predicted. You have voted with your certainty, not with your wisdom. She paused. 847 warnings, each one sent to a senator, each one ignored. She counted you. She knew your names. She knew you would do this. The council chamber went quiet. The keeper stepped forward, a data slate in his hand. The list is here, he said. Every senator, every vote, every warning they received. The oldest one knew who would vote yes. She knew who would vote no, and she kept the record. He began to read names. Thesvar's name was first. He had received 23 warnings. He had read none of them. Then came the others, one by one. Each senator heard their name read aloud. Each one saw the warning they had ignored. The chamber fell into stunned silence. Myrith stood up. She looked at the keeper. And what about me? She asked. The keeper glanced at his slate. Ambassador Myrith, you received 8 warnings. You read all of them? You voted no? Myrith nodded. Then I'm not on the list. No, the keeper said. You are not, he turned to the camera. Admiral Vance, the oldest one left one more instruction, she said. When the counting is done, the door will open one final time. The one who counted will choose who walks through. Vance's hand was still on the compass. The needle had stopped spinning. It pointed at the door. She walked toward it. On the other side was a shuttle bay. A single shuttle waited. Inside it, Lieutenant Kira Vale sat in the pilot's seat. Admiral, Kira Vale said, the council is waiting. They want you to appear in person. They say they will reverse the vote if you will come to the rotunda and explain the protocol. Vance stepped into the shuttle. And what do you think? Kira Vale met her eyes. I think they are afraid. They want to bargain. They want to make a deal. Vance sat down. Then we will go, but we will not bargain. She touched the compass again. The needle was steady. Take us to the rotunda, she said. The shuttle lifted. On the council feed, the keeper had finished reading the names. The chamber was silent except for the hum of the ventilation and the distant sound of a shuttle departing. Thesvar slumped in his seat. He had stopped fanning himself. Myrith turned to the camera. Admiral Vance is coming, she said. When she arrives, we will listen. Not because we trust her, because the oldest one trusted her, and the oldest one was never wrong. The shuttle sliced through the void, carrying Vance and Kira Vale toward the obsidian rotunda. On the bridge of the Eternal Conquest, Admiral Kale watched the same feed. His gold eyes were fixed on the human shuttle. He touched the missing tip of his horn. 847 warnings, he murmured. She counted every one. He had been wrong, he had always been wrong, and now he was watching the door open. The shuttle docked with the obsidian rotunda. Admiral Vance stepped out into the cold, incense-scented air. She had not visited this place in 30 years. She had never wanted to. Lieutenant Kira Vale followed her. The corridor was empty. The council had cleared the path, but they had not come to greet her. They were waiting in the chamber, afraid to come out. Vance paused at the entrance. She touched her compass. The needle was steady, pointing north toward the door. Admiral, Kira Vale said, they are waiting. They will try to negotiate. I know, Vance said. Let them. She pushed the door open. The obsidian rotunda was vast, its obsidian ceiling transparent, the Vorkath Nebula pulsing violet above. 2,400 seats rose in concentric tiers, but many were empty. The senators who had voted yes were there, huddled together. The three who had voted no sat apart. Ambassador Thesvar rose from his seat. He had stopped fanning himself. His hands were clasped behind his back. Admiral Vance, he said, we have seen the list. We have seen the warnings. We have seen what your protocol did to the Zarvith fleet. Vance walked to the center of the chamber. She stopped beneath the largest obsidian arch. You have seen what the oldest one predicted, she said. You have seen your own names on the list. You have seen that she knew exactly what you would do, and she warned you anyway. Thesvar's jaw tightened. We are prepared to reverse the vote. We are prepared to recognize your defense system as legitimate. But we need your assurance that you will not use it again, except in self-defense. Vance looked at him. That is exactly what we used it for. The Zarvith invaded our territory. We defended ourselves. But you had the system ready for 3,000 years. You built it for this exact moment. Yes, Vance said, because we believed her. The oldest one told us that you would not listen. She told us that when the Zarvith came, you would not lift a finger to help us. She told us we would have to defend ourselves. The chamber erupted. Senators shouted over one another. Some demanded that Vance be arrested. Others called for a new vote. Myrith stood up, her voice cut through the noise. Silence, she said. We invited her here to listen, so listen. The chamber quieted. Myrith walked down to the center toward Vance. Admiral, she said, I voted no. I read the warnings. I believe the oldest one, and I believe you now, but I need to know. What happens next? Will you leave the council? Will you declare independence? Vance shook her head. We have no interest in leaving. We have no interest in declaring anything. We built the protocol to protect ourselves, not to conquer. We will stay in the Concord, but we will do it on our own terms. She reached into her uniform and pulled out the compass. She held it up. The oldest one left us one final message, she said. She said, when the counting is done, the door will open one final time. The one who counted will choose who walks through. Vance paused. She looked at the senators, at the fear in their eyes. I am the one who counted, she said. I counted the warnings, I counted the ships, I counted the years, and now I'm choosing who walks through the door. She turned to the keeper, who stood at the edge of the chamber. The door is open to anyone who reads the warnings, she said. Anyone who acknowledges that the oldest one was right. Anyone who admits that they were wrong, Thesvar stepped forward. And if we do not admit it, then the door stays closed, Vance said. And you will face the same choices the Zarvith faced. You will make the same mistakes, and the next time there will be no warning. She turned to leave. Myrith called after her. Admiral, wait. What about the ships? What about Admiral Kale? Vance stopped. She did not turn around. Admiral Kale surrendered, she said. He will be returned to the Dominion with his remaining crew. He will carry the message. But the Council will also carry a message. You will send a formal apology to Earth. You will recognize our sovereignty. And you will read every single warning the oldest one sent. She turned back, her eyes scanning the room. Those are my terms, she said. Take them or leave them. Thesvar's face was pale. He looked around at the other senators. Many of them were already looking at the keeper, at the data slate with their names. He sat down. We accept, he said. We accept your terms. Vance nodded. She walked toward the exit. But before she reached the door, she stopped at the keeper's seat. One more thing, she said. The oldest one also left a message for you, she said. When the compass points north, the door will be open for the last time. The one who holds it will know what to do. The keeper looked at the compass in her hand. The needle was still pointing north. What does it mean? He asked. Vance smiled. It means the waiting is over. She walked out of the chamber. On Sentinel Station, Commander Chen watched the feed. He saw Vance exit the rotunda. He saw the keeper bow his head. He turned to Sergeant Webb. We're done, he said. The council accepted. Webb took a sip of cold coffee. About time, he said. On the bridge of the Eternal Conquest, Admiral Kale watched the same feed. He saw the keeper bow. He saw Vance walk away. He touched the missing tip of his horn. She counted them all, he murmured. Every one, he stood up. The bridge officers turned to him. Prepare the remaining ships for departure, he said. We are going home, and we are carrying a message. The The fleet turned and began the long journey back to Dominion space. In the council chamber, the keeper sat alone. The senators had filed out, silent and shaken. Myrith was the last to leave. She paused at the door. "Keeper," she said, "what will you do now?" He looked at his data slate. The list of names was still there. The warnings were still there. "I will keep them," he said. "I will remember. That is what we do." Myrith nodded. She left him alone. The keeper sat in the silence. He looked up at the transparent ceiling at the stars of the Vorkath Nebula. Then he reached into his robe and pulled out a small object, a silver compass, identical to Vance's. It had been given to him by the oldest one herself on the day she left the chamber. He held it up. The needle was frozen, pointing north. He smiled. "She counted them all," he whispered, "and she gave me this, so that I would always know which way the door was." He set the compass on the table, next to the data slate. The needle did not move. In the shuttle, Vance sat across from Kira Vale. The shuttle lifted from the rotunda and began the journey back to Sentinel Station. Kira Vale looked at her. "Admiral, the Council accepted. They will send the apology. They will recognize Earth." Vance nodded. She touched the compass at her chest. The needle was steady. "I know," she said. Kira Vale hesitated. "What happens now? We have proven ourselves. We have shown them what we can do, but they are still afraid. They will always be afraid." Vance looked out the window at the stars. "Let them be afraid," she said. "Fear is not the same as wisdom, but it can be a door. If they are afraid enough, they might learn to listen." She paused. "Or they might not. But that is no longer our problem. We have our own door now." The shuttle entered the hangar of Sentinel Station. Vance stood and walked to the ramp. Before she stepped out, she turned to Kira Vale. "Lieutenant," she said, "you understood the warning? You remembered. That means something. When the Council asks for someone to teach them what the oldest one meant, I will send you." Kira Vale nodded. "I will go." Vance stepped off the shuttle. She walked through the corridors of Sentinel Station. The crew parted for her, their eyes full of respect. She did not look at them. She reached her quarters. She opened the door and stepped inside. The room was small, Spartan. A desk, a chair, a bunk. On the desk sat the dented thermos. Beside it, a small frame held a faded photograph of her grandmother. Vance sat down. She pulled out the compass and laid it on the desk. The needle pointed north. It had not moved since she left the rotunda. She touched it gently. "Grandmother," she whispered, "you waited 98 years. You passed this to me. You told me to wait. And now I have." She looked at the compass. The needle was steady. She thought of the oldest one. She thought of the warnings, the centuries of patience, the thousands of ships built, the millions of lives saved. She thought of the 847 senators who had voted yes and the 3 who had voted no. She thought of the door, and she knew that the door would stay open. Because she had counted them, she had always been counting.